appreciate the great comment that Kelly wrote out.
Particularly if you look, so it means that preservation given different thinking of life expectancy for that way rather than allowing it to deteriorate. Okay. Anything else? Another question for Ryan? Okay. Eric, you're up for the 170 and the triangle update.
Good afternoon, everyone. So on 170, good news, we did get bids back. That project has gone before, so this is for the near-term improvements from Okatee Center South up to 462. That's gone to both committee and council, and that's been approved, so we're working through, and Brian will probably be given the next updates because this is actually moving to construction. So that one should be, we're waiting for procurement and the contracts to go through, but should be starting here relatively quickly. So that's good news on the 170 near term. Again, those are the spot improvements. When we start talking about the triangle overall, which is 170, 278, and Argent, we have asked AECOM to do an update on the 170 corridor study that was done in 2019. Again, traffic patterns have changed, volumes have changed, development is coming. So again, just to look at those, the different things that have changed along that corridor and give us an update on that one. AECOM is also working on 278. They have the corridor plan just about ready to go. It's in draft form as of right now. We've asked them for one minor update at the Palmer Grace intersection because we're seeing some development from Hardyville in that particular area. So again, once they give that update, we're ready to present that, and we'll ask AECOM to give that presentation at LATS and potentially even come here and give a quick update on that. So that is basically the two legs of 278. So a couple of updates on corridor studies, and then the good news on the actual near-term project. If I bounce back just real quick to the near-term project, DOT has included the ramps and a portion of overlay on 278 as a part of that project. So that was bid as two separate items on the actual bid form for the 170 project. They have approved that, and so that is all moving forward. We've got the IGA approved at both the committee and council level. So again, thank them. Thank you, Chairman, for working that detail out with them. And then also just want to mention that the 170 near term was a cost share with Jasper County as well as Hardyville. So they contributed to that project as well.
Are they contributing any more since the cost came out considerably more than what we anticipated?
No, they're still, I mean, that agreement was for that set amount. Again, I think there'll be a lot of opportunity for cost share, especially as we start talking about the Triangle project. So again, we're covering that piece, any kind of overruns on that particular piece, because that addresses kind of those near-term safety and capacity issues along the corridor. Then real quick, jumping then to 278, more of the bridge portion. So we are in that, I think I mentioned this a couple times ago, that independent review that was requested by the town as a part of the overall 278 bridge piece. CBB is the company, that's the traffic engineering firm that's working on that right now. They've just about wrapped that study up, should be done at the end of August to September, and ready to present that to county council as well as the town council. So again, at that point, we are hoping to be able to move forward. They are working through their VISA model, which is a simulation model to be able to visualize what the impacts of that project are for the corridor. So a lot of good information that's coming out of that study, and again, we're right on the threshold of being able to present that to both councils.
Is everything put together basically by DOT where 1/6 is approved?
Yeah, at that point, that's the agreement. To my knowledge, that's the agreement with DOT, that once that study has come through and has been approved, then that's that next step to submit the FONSI to FHWA.
So Hilton Head decides to move on for a change.
And so the other thing that I'll add, and Mr. Perry is aware of this one, ahead of that construction, Whitmore Harbor has been approved for a traffic signal. So we're working through that design. That has been approved by both commission and council as well. So working through minute comments from SDOT and then getting our contractor out there to get started. So we're hopeful to have them out there sometime before September.
See, that's just because you joined the committee. It wouldn't have happened
That's
otherwise.
absolutely.
If I joined it 15 years ago, what would have happened then? That's how long I've been working on it.
Any questions, other questions for Eric? Yes, sir.
You said this consultant, whatever the number is now that we've gone through, is looking at the traffic figures.
Correct.
Is there any indication that the simulations from the MPO and DOT are in large enough quantities to make a difference whether there should be a 6-lane section or not?
I mean, at this point, the review has been done with both county staff and town staff, and the data's been consistent from what we've seen before in the past.
Well, then, what was the purpose
It's
of
been,
this round then?
and we've gone through this before. That was at the request of the town.
And as the town basically said, that once this final consultant look is done, they're going to be on board for approval of the project in the town of Hilton Head.
I can't speak for the town. I will say that is our understanding.
So what you're sort of telling me is, if they're not satisfied, could we be in for another round of shopping for a consultant?
There is a additional independent review that is being looked at by the town as we speak.
And it's going to be the last one.
That I don't have that information.
Okay, thank you.
I think what it bears down to is that there'll be a political come to meeting.
Well, certainly, Craig, a political decision is a hell of a lot different than a technical decision.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's part of the process. All I'm saying is, when are we going to stop looking for a consultant that gives us the answer that we want to hear?
That's a good question. They've been doing that for some time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I would encourage that question to be directed towards Hilton Head.
I think I have several times.
Okay,
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mike.
thank you.
We'll move on to new business, and we're going to talk a little bit about Bentonfield Road. And Bentonfield Road runs by, and did we plug in a map for that by chance, Sierra? Okay. Bentonfield Road basically runs by Palmetto Breeze on one side and Thomas Concrete on the opposite side in Boston. And without question, the road has been beaten up in pretty bad shape, to say the least. And because of that, we could have, as a committee, could have just said, we'll fix it and keep on going on because it's a county-owned road, it's our road. And I kind of took it upon myself to fight up the chain of command in Thomas Concrete. And Thomas Concrete, we had, Brian and I met with their vice president for South Carolina and vice president for Georgia as well. Thomas is an 80 concrete strong company, 8 plant company, so they're quite a player in the concrete field. And the question that was asked of them, I said, you guys help damage the road. In fact, it's damaged primarily where you pull in and out of Hill Road, at Beddenfield Road. And I said, will you donate the concrete to fix it? And if we take care of the labor and so on to put the concrete down, fix the road, then we can go on with our resurfacing. And the agreement was, yes, that they would provide the concrete. And we're going to try to schedule the work to be done when they're taking their plant down for about somewhere around a 1 or 2 week period. So this will have some effect not only on Palmetto Breeze, but Palmetto Breeze also has money that they've put aside to do some paving going into their facility. So we've taken what could have been an ugly beast where we were going to suck up all the dollars and got money. And if you plug in about $175 a yard, it's more than 100 yards of concrete that we're getting donated to us. So there's been a very positive outcome, just being a little bit of, having a little bit of tenacity and asking until they either slapped your hand and said, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. So we've got the concrete being donated for. So that's, wanted to share with you the idea that we're not rolling over and just paving roads, even though somebody else has done a lot of damage to it. And I will also say Neil Desai from Public Works has been very good to work with. He's also helping with the cost of making repairs because this was also part of his responsibility to take care of. Any questions on that? Okay, I've given you all a chore for today. And the chore was, first and foremost, to come up with roads in your district. And how we're going to do this is each of you are going to have the opportunity to discuss the projects that you nominated and the reason you nominated. You have slides, we want to see the slides, and let you talk through the reasons and rationale for it. So Clarence, you're up first for Poppy Hill Circle.
That's great. Well, I turned some, there's a lot of, I don't know what you want to call it, potholes or whatever, but that road is damaged and needs to be repaired. So I went through, me and Mr. Dawson, we went just kind of ride around in our area, and, you know, I'm just learning too, because I called you and I was calling Brian and we talk about some things so I can tell different county roads and state roads and all that stuff for that. And well, I said, well, you got some money for us to spend. Might as well spend on something in my district. So I picked just the road I saw was really terrible. So I picked this road right here because if you ride that whole road around, you'll see this damage and it needs to be repaired.
Well,
so that's the reason why I picked that.
That's good.
So I make sure we don't throw away that money and give it away.
What I want to congratulate you on is the good job you did in selecting it. There's a sheet underneath the agenda. And the sheet underneath the agenda is also going to address each of the roads that we've talked about that have been nominated. Poppy Hill Circle is Route 770. It is a low ADT, and it's on our 2026 list already for paving in our 5-year program because it was a low ADT. So it's already been picked up on it. So we'll be talking about other opportunities in your district in just a few minutes. District 2, Brian, you turned in for District 11. We'll get you back in District 2. You turned over to District 2.
Oh, I did not know.
Yeah, you were pointing back. But we'll go ahead and look at this. Right, 327.
It's a very small, short street. It's almost all vacationers down in that area, on the resort areas and short-term rentals. So it doesn't get a lot of traffic, that's why it's low term, and it's not real bad shape. But of all the ones I had road, it was the worst one in that area.
Okay. Next up, Is Mr. Backer?
Yes. I took a look at the roads in District 5 and sorted them based on the criteria of ADT, greater than 500, less than 2,000. And then I further sorted them using a PQI of less than 2 in order to get some handle on some of the poorer roads in the district. And as it turned out, on these 3 roads, not only did they meet the ADT criteria, they all had very low PQIs of 0.2, 0.21. These pictures are just a sampling of pictures of the condition of these roads, and they all look really, really pretty poor. Most of the roads are about at Rugrack and Cherokee Farms Road are both about half a mile long. Salem Drive West is shorter, it's just over a quarter mile. But these are the roads that really popped up in applying the criteria of the District 5.
And again, if you revert to your sheet, you did exactly correct. Everything was good. There's a portion of Salem that was paved in 2016, I believe. So we'll keep that in mind. That was a good presentation. Brian, what did costs go for whenever we did chip seal? What was the square yard price you recall? Was it $2?
Yeah, I think it's more than that. I don't recall what it was exactly right offhand. I want to say it might have been around 7 square yards, if that seems.
Okay. Next item is Paul Manning, Gibbet Road.
Yeah, I mean, I went through it in the area of District 7, and there really didn't seem to be any state roads that fit that 50 to 500 to 2,000. I mean, there's a lot of traffic on the state roads there, but I guess, I mean, Gibbet, it's getting a lot of traffic over the circle now. I think people are, it's a neat little shortcut.
Right. Well, again, there's a reference sheet, and I've discussed this with Elizabeth. Gibbet Road is scheduled to be, she's put it in for 2025 to not only be widened, but also to be resurfaced. So you did good, but it's on the list for future work.
Potentially. If funding makes it that far.
The commission
If
has
you get
to
to it first, hey.
Art, you're up next.
Yes, I took a look at, so let's see how much of my presentation is going to be put up there. I looked at all the roads in my district and the ones that fit the category listed on this slide, and the only ones that were within the parameters that we needed to deal with were Oma Road and Oma Drive. 1550, I think it's 1700. Somebody found a couple more hundred trips a day in some area. In any event, it's relevant because Oma Road is one of the main feeders to Benton Field Road. So we have an awful lot of cement trucks and heavy-duty buses traveling that road every single day, quite often during the day. Not a lot of damage, a lot of transverse cracks, as you can see in the next slide. It needs to be sealed, so in order to preserve that road and keep it active for the heavy-duty traffic that it does have on it now, I'm recommending that it get taken care of.
Okay.
I should talk about Oma Drive also. That's a road that serves a residential area, and I'm not going to comment on the nature of the area, but I think the residents could use a nice improved roadway in front of their houses.
Well, I will direct you to the study that was done on it, and it didn't get picked up. It was, I think, where my note, it was,
It was beyond 2027 when it was going to be picked up on our 5-year program. And I guess it was a combination of its current condition as well as its current, and that was done by AMT for us. And when they went through and did all of the state secondaries for us, less than 500, so it's projected beyond that at this point in time. It'll probably get picked up in our next review.
Thank you.
Chairman, I want to mention just one thing real quick on Ulmer. So we do have, as a part of the pedestrian plan that we have for that area, we have sidewalks or multi-use path that's going to go down Ulmer. It's going to go down Shad as well. And then there's a project that we're just about ready to go out to bid for on Alljoy. So that makes that loop for that pedestrian connection all the way around that loop. Then we also have Burnt Church, which is another project from Bluffton Parkway all the way over to Bridge. And that'll actually be a widening with on-street bike lanes as well as multi-use path and sidewalks. So just wanted to include that.
That's a good note, because that could be easily picked up after the widening is, or it's done, bike paths and so on are done.
I have an ancillary contract note, save me a phone call. The street sign for Ulmer and Burnt Church Road was knocked over a bend. And I see it's been replaced, except it's 90 degrees
The wrong way?
wrong way.
Okay, got it. We'll take care of
90
that.
degree turn necessary.
Got it. We'll take care of that. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Perry, you have Wilburn Road.
Wilburn Road is one of the accesses to the Hilton Head school system. This particular photo was actually the worst part of it. It was taken at School Drive and Wilburn Road, which is the intersection that goes with School Drive as you pay a guest goes in front of the school. And that's actually the worst section of the roadway. It does get a fair amount of traffic because it is one of the routes to the Hilton Head school system. If you're going to do something, and I think it's the money well spent, this area right here, which is maybe as big as this room or smaller than this room, is something that could be done fairly cheaply, but it would improve the roadway a good deal. The Wilburn Road goes, it's kind of a goofy system. It goes around and it comes back in. But that continues on what I believe to be school property, at least as the sign that says it's not state maintained. So I would suggest that it's a fairly small amount of money to fix this one portion, and that would improve it. I would note in passing that the road that seems to be the worst in our district is Spanish Wells Road. And Spanish Wells is obviously it's close to Spanish Wells community, but it's much traveled. There's a lot of commercial traffic going through there. The bridge that was just replaced has a roadway on either side of it that's in very, very good condition. But as it goes toward Marshland Road, it becomes very, very bumpy and very pothole. So I said Olive Shell Road to Marshland Road, and that's an approximate location. I don't know what can be done. It doesn't meet the criteria for this committee or for this effort, but it's certainly something that needs to be done. I don't know how you fit it in, Craig.
Elizabeth, is that on your list?
Yes, it'll be a recommendation for 2025 in the higher priority. But like I said, just as funding is available, we'll work our way through that priority ranking for those. But the section that we have on there is I believe from Oakview to Marshall.
Okay. The 2025 is your approximate?
Well, it's going to be recommended as a higher priority in 2025, but as funding is available, it may be 2026, 27. It just depends on how much funding is there and the cost associated with each repair.
Is it, Brian, is it something we could ask Public Works to take a look at, this section that needs to be worked on?
Well, and I was speaking of
Wilburn?
Spanish Wells.
Spanish Wells.
That's what I was speaking of.
No, Wilburn.
Yes, Wilborn we can take a look at from the state side, but and see where our line is, because it does end at this intersection and change ownership.
Yeah, that intersection is actually a three-way where state comes in. I think county has one leg and the school district actually has another leg. But yeah, so I'll get out there and take a look and see in between.
This picture is right at
works if we can figure something out.
I'm sorry. This picture is right at that intersection, and the sign that says in-state maintenance is right off to the right, and so I didn't put that in, but this is it's a fairly small area, and it could use some work, as you can see.
Yeah, I believe that intersection is actually where it splits between school district, county, and state.
Yeah.
But so we'll get with Public Works and Elizabeth and see if we can figure something
Thank you.
out.
We'll look at it to see if it's not maybe the school's responsibility to take care of it, not ours.
And we'll certainly take a look at Poppy Hill too. I just want to rate that.
Spend the money.
Yes,
Yeah, the
to make an intermediate repair to some of those locations.
On your, if you flip that sheet over that I gave you, Elizabeth and I had a conversation the other day, and the first one is Fish Hall, by the way, H-A-U-L, I overlooked that. These are some streets that she picked up in the various districts that we might be consider in the future as possible targets. Now, where we're at today is, I'm hoping that when the meeting's over, what's going to happen is we're going to come up with a list of roads prioritized that we're going to have engineering go ahead and do some estimates on, come up with costs associated with it. We're required to spend around $1.1 to $1.2 million on state secondaries this year. Next year, as a reminder to everybody, just to get just back in your system, next year we will no longer have a 1.1 million or 1.2 million we're spending. We'll have roughly $600,000 that we're going to be spending on less than 500 ADT, and then 500 to 2,000 ADT, and that's was an agreement we struck, committee struck 2 years ago, and that's how it was set up. Last year we spent $1 million, 1.1 or $1.2 million on less than 500 ADTs. So we put a big dent into it last year. This year, starting 1 July, this is what this is going to. We're spending our 1.1 million for this year. But starting next July, we're back 500, 600,000 on each of those two segments, unless this committee decides to change that for some reason. So seeing that, I would like to put on the floor recommendations that we would take Cherokee Farm, Rugrat, Homer Road, and Ibis in that sequence. You got that, Sierra? Cherokee, Rugrat, Homer, and Ibis. Those 4 roads. And I would ask for a motion to approve those for our work this coming fiscal year. And with that, again, we have to go, providing the dollar amount equals our 1.1 million. What I'm trying to do is move us along, because we won't meet for another 2 months. We can have, if we have the engineering and it comes up to 1.1, 1.2 million, we're golden, we move the thing on. If we do not hit that dollar amount, we still have the opportunity of adding another route to it during that time span. Okay? Do I have a motion to that?
Cease to move, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Yes, sir.
What was the 4 roads you called up?
One is Cherokee Farms Road,
Rugrat,
Rugrat, Palmer, and Ibis, or Ibis.
Chair, recommend possibly picking alternates at the same time in case we are under that 1.1, we have fallbacks to go to.
That's a great suggestion.
And I would point out that on Cherokee Farms, within not year 6, but year 5, we paved the county portion, so it's just the state portion that's left, and it'll be basically a resurface road. And same thing with Ibis, it is on our year 7 paving list for the county portion. So if it's chosen, then the county and state portion will both be done, so.
That's good timing for us to go ahead and tie in. Yes, Elizabeth.
And I was with PAVE as part of Lagoon in 2019, and I'd asked you to also look at the segment of Ulmer Road in discussion. It was also paved as CPC 2016. So if we would just review when they were last resurfaced in relation to a couple of the others that you may pick up instead, just to have that greater impact to bring that level of service up.
Okay. We have a motion, a second, and you have a question.
Are any of these roads at the request or the insistence of the department?
No, that's not their responsibility.
I thought we had a comment about Gibbet Road, something being done in FY25.
Yes.
Why are we moving ahead with something now?
It's not Beaufort, it's this.
Gibbet is already been nominated for 2025.
That's what I mean. Why are we?
Why would we pick it up? Why would we not take another road?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I didn't pick it up.
Okay.
It's Ibis, not Gibbet.
Gibbets.
Gibbet Road.
Gibbets.
No,
Gibbets. IBIS.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's my Baltimore accent.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Treasurer's report. Mr. Backer.
The C-Fund program report is updated basically through the end of the year for spending. We don't have June revenue in yet, and there'll be some miscellaneous spending items that will pop in that some of them Brian mentioned in his report, some things that are in progress that haven't been invoiced yet. So the 11-month revenue is about 8.5 million. That also includes, and should be noted, the almost 5.8 million that came from a one-time commitment from the state legislature that was given to all of spread by formula to the CTCs across the state. That was a one-time. So we have a year-end balance of roughly 8.7 million. So we are in good shape. Again, there are some outstanding things that need to be addressed. Another item was that the team with Sierra and Brittany completed the compliance review for 21-22 for the C-Fund program. I want to thank Sierra for getting that accomplished. So that's really all.
What we're showing is roughly 4 million carrying forward.
Carrying forward.
And that's a good position. We're allowed to carry up to 200% greater than what our annual budget is, and our annual budget's roughly $2.5 to $3 million. So we're good speed on that. And with what we have planned and programmed for this year, we'll be chewing that down again. So all in all, we're in good financial status. Item 8, public comment to agenda items. Anybody have anything they'd like to bring up? Okay. My comment would be very simple. I give each committee member, and I fully recognize that some districts have this plan. Mine, Craig's, will never have roads in it because of the 500 to 2,000 ADT. We have a large number of plantations, gated communities that cover the districts, and some of the others are in the same situation. Hilton Head's pretty much the same way, 10 and 11. And so, but I appreciate the good work that you all put in, and the hard work you put in. Hopefully you learn a little bit about your districts in the process of doing that. I also want to give a shout out to Jenny Kozak. Jenny Kozak had was referred by a disgruntled person in her district, and she did a great job of handling that person. He was still remaining disgruntled when he left, but she did everything in her power to try to defuse the individual. So yes, sir.
While you're on, getting back a little bit to the,
Ms. Cozart saying. Speak again, Ms. Cozart.
Wow. Well, thank you for being here with us. Didn't know you were still here, Jenny, but I still give you a shout out for the good job you did. And I've also turned it over to the district, as I said in the email, to look into it, the possible complaints that the individual might have had.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for your comments on both of our districts, and you're absolutely right as far as that's concerned. But one request that I have as far as District 6 is concerned, we have 5 of the roads that are under discussion. 4 of them go to a dead end. One of them, the dead end roads, is St. Mary's Church, St. Mary's Camp Road. It would seem to me that the county's discussion, plans, or whatever to what happens at St. Mary's Camp, that it would be nice, it would be to the county's benefit to have that road under our jurisdiction as the plans for St. Mary's Camp goes along. That once it's decided on what happens at that particular location, that we don't have to worry about going to the state and getting permit or requesting approval of this size pipe, that size pipe, and so on. So what I'm requesting is that we ask, strongly suggest, because it would be to the benefit of the county, to ask the department to transfer St. Mary's Camp Road to the county.
So well, I appreciate your comments, and we'll have that as a conversation piece. See nothing else to come before this meeting? Adjourn.